We know for sure that these caterpillars eat this plant here. So I don't know if you can see it very well there, but this plant here. And then this plant is actually in the same genus. So they're both sedum species, but this one is Sedum lanceolatum, it's called, and this one is Sedum integrifolium. So we just call them yellow sedum and red sedum for short. And anyway, it turns out that they seem to be able to eat this plant as well, but we don't know if they really like it or if it's just like they can eat it and they will sometimes. And so we're trying to do some experiments just to see how much they actually like it. So on the side, in between when they're taking a break here, I'm letting them eat these plants and seeing which one they prefer. So these little guys here are caterpillars, which eventually are going to turn into the Rocky Mountain Apollo butterfly. And here at BioArt Camp, I'm going to be working on a project where I'm looking at what these guys like to eat. The butterflies are threatened by rising tree line. So trees are advancing into the meadows where they live and giving them less and less space for what they need to do. And as it turns out, as trees are advancing into the meadow, the plants that they need to eat are also being affected by these trees that are moving into their meadows. So what we have here are caterpillars, which are going to turn into the Rocky Mountain Apollo butterfly. So at the moment, they've been eating these plants here for maybe the past few weeks or so, and they've got another 1 week or so left as caterpillars. Before they stop what they're doing, they stop their eating, and then they decide that they're going to turn into butterflies. It turns out that they have a really close association with the plant that they eat. And so they rely on this plant so much that as trees are moving up into their meadows as part of this rising tree line phenomenon throughout the Rocky Mountains, those plants that they eat are affected adversely by this. And so the caterpillars are affected, and then in turn also the adult butterflies are affected by this as well. So we're kind of researching all sorts of questions related to these issues. But in my own life, I think what I would find most fulfilling is not only to be able to contribute to the scientific discourse, but also kind of move beyond that scientific discourse and talk to the general public, maybe, talk to people who are simply walking through the meadows and interested in what that butterfly is over there. So those are the kinds of things that I think are the most rewarding to me. See if he likes, this is called loco weed.
For a second I was like, what?
The name only is...
It grows naturally here,
But it's seeds.
So this is not illicit, no. What about we find real plants of weed in the place,
Loco weed? This is called loco weed.
Well, here, check
Kurt said it makes the cattle go crazy.
I have a friend of mine who makes music with ants.
Oh, really?
He travels the world with his ants colonies.
So does he record them? Like,
yeah,
so he captures the sounds that they make?
Yeah, but he transposes that to a computer and then kind of plays the DJ with it.
Yeah.
But he DJs with it.
So you can see we have very high-tech equipment in ecology. We have all these yogurt containers here. It's all pretty much everything that I use in this study. And I mean, these things get published in scientific journals, but you never see you used yogurt containers. But almost everything you need for this research you can buy at a dollar store or a grocery store. So it's kind of fun. You have to be kind of crafty and enjoy making things and making your equipment. So in that sense, I think it's kind of similar to some of the bioart pursuits as well. Basically what I'm doing is separating them all out from this big collective thing into little separate containers. But there's actually one guy here that started pupating. So he's the first one of the bunch, and I don't know if you can bring the camera in so you can see it, but he's starting to spin a cocoon. So he's actually spitting out silk with his mouth, and he's making himself a little place to begin to pupate. So he's gonna, if he had little bits of leaves and stuff that he could wrap himself in, he'd rather do that, but he's just doing it right here. And so he's going to be pupating probably by tomorrow or the next day, and then 3 weeks later he'll be a butterfly. I just want them to kind of warm up and get moving and dry out a little bit again because they got a bit cold last night. Ideally you'd use this for butterflies, like you'd actually have butterflies in there, and then there's this door thing in lieu of, the big rubber glove or something that you go running in after. You can get in and muck around with them.
So, can you point one out to me?
Yeah, here. I don't know if any have started moving yet, but...
Oh, there, I see them.
See them there?
They're black, okay.
Yeah, black and yellow.
Oh, cool. Wow.
They're aposematic. Oh yeah, there's one, this guy right here is eating, so he's warmed up enough to start eating. You can see him chowing down there.
Yum.
So they're aposematically colored the same way that bees are. They're black and yellow. And it's for the same reasons, because the plant has some nasty tasting chemicals in it.
Okay.
And they eat the plant and they sequester those chemicals and make themselves nasty tasting as well.
Oh, okay, cool.
I mean, the idea behind aposematic coloration is that you have some like unique, scary looking coloration.
Right.
And one of you is a sacrificial lamb and is eaten,
Right.
and then thereafter, whoever eats you is never going to eat anybody like you again.
But it is the notion that the colors of black and yellow are like a code to other
Exactly,
animals
yeah.
not to eat.
It's just
Okay,
it's just
right.
like a warning color. And I mean, the yellow
Right.
sort of shows up like in infrared or ultraviolet or whatever. Like it shows up as a brighter color. Like the plants want to continuously evolve new chemicals that will keep them from being eaten, and
Sure.
then the caterpillars want to continuously evolve ways around that.
Mm-hmm.
And so you have these really neat associations. So these guys were finding evidence that their saliva might actually disable the defensive response of the plant. So if you chop the plant like by hand, it'll actually produce a defensive response, which is counterintuitive because most plants wouldn't do that because then, you know, if they're stepped on, they wouldn't want to waste their energy.
Yeah.
Right.
But these guys actually do seem to produce it, but then in response to being eaten, they don't seem to produce it. So the caterpillars are able to neutralize it, which is
Wow.
super cool. And this plant actually, when it's eaten, we think, we're not totally sure right now, we used to be certain, but now we're less certain than we were, produces a defensive response in response to being eaten. So basically it makes itself not very tasty, chemically speaking. So if we leave the same plant in for too long, even if it looks like the plant is tasty, it's actually probably not, chemically speaking. So yeah, that's why we have to change the plants around as much as we do too. I'm kind of excited about building like a mill for caterpillars now. I didn't think it would be possible, but I think I want to try and get some wire or something and build a little, grind some
Do
wheat
it.
or something with it.
Yeah, definitely.
And did you bring this apparatus for the
No, well, I
butterflies?
didn't bring it for the butterflies because I would have had to steal it from another insect lab, and I figured I wouldn't use it. But I could make a ghetto version of it, I think, probably.
Well, I've got a wind-up flashlight.
I wonder how many caterpillar power I'd need to
I'm
be
not
able
sure
to do
you
that.
could.
I'm trying to get this right in the center if I can, but it's not so easy. And then this eventually is going to be the arm of the caterpillar mill. So good, it's actually spinning. That that makes me somewhat happy. So it's a work in progress. We'll see how it comes. Yeah, everything that I have here is material that I found somewhere around BioArt camps. These were just old bits of wire that were lying around, so I've been clipping them and making them like to kind of balance the weight, just to make sure that it actually balanced on the pin here. It's kind of the added challenge to it all. So what I'm hoping to do with this is to quantify the motion of these caterpillars. We work with motion of adult butterflies a lot, and we usually measure that motion by actually, you know, catching a butterfly and then seeing how far it flew. And I thought it would be really neat to like quantify that motion using this flight mill idea, where you can actually see how far a butterfly moves around on a fixed fulcrum point. But then you could, you know, convert that into, you know, how many revolutions or how much power could you generate from a butterfly flying. And that plan didn't really pan out, but I'm hoping to do the same thing with the caterpillars.
So would you say, like, you take the ultimate hippie symbol and turn it into something else? Is it political or is it not?
It's not really a political statement. I mean, Adam brought up a minute ago that there's this whole issue of, you know, caterpillar rights and the idea of putting them to work, which I hadn't really been thinking about, and now that I'm thinking about it, I'm starting to worry a little bit. But I think it's kind of neat to maybe even, you know, if you did want to take a political angle on it, the fact that sort of bigger, more popular animals have pretty obvious rights that are defended, but, you know, it's pretty easy to work on caterpillars and on butterflies, and nobody's really stopping me from doing this. So in a way, I could have an army of caterpillar slaves working to generate power or something, and there'd be no restriction on it. So I don't know, I'm kind of taking it more politically than it probably needs to be, but
Okay, so concerning the symbolic level of your image, so the more Freudian sexual connotations.
Now there's a different question. I don't know, what do you think?
No, I'm asking.
That's something I hadn't really thought about, I'm not gonna lie. I guess there's some, you know, potentially phallic imagery going on here, but
Do you at all feel that there's something at stake when it comes to a lot of artists commenting heavily on science that they don't necessarily understand because there hasn't been a disciplinary specialization or a process of that they've gone through. I mean, sometimes I find there is a risk of making alarmist cultural statements towards the science that might just not be well understood when it comes to critical bioart.
Yeah, well, I mean, I can only speak from my own experience, and that has been that the bioartists I've worked with have been a lot more informed about the science behind their work than their stereotype would lead you to expect them to be. And I know when Jennifer, the head of bioart camp, came to our research field station to explain the project, I think there were a lot of people that were going along with it, but a little skeptical. Like I don't think there was anybody that was dismissing the idea out of hand, but I think a lot of them thought that it was a little bit weird. And I think everybody was really impressed at how, even though the pictures might look weird, the science behind it and the theoretical basis behind it was really sound. Like in science, there's sort of a systemic aversion to partiality, right? Like you're trying to be impartial, you're trying to be as objective as possible. And most scientists recognize that no matter how hard they try, they're always going to bring some perspective to things.
So have you come to any type of feeling or conclusion around what this experience is doing for you? Or
I'm thinking of putting those kinds of things in just to get the word out, because I think a lot of scientists aren't really even aware that these kinds of bioartists are around as commonly as they are, and are enthusiastic about working with scientists. Yeah, I don't think I'm coming to too many finite conclusions right now. I think I'm just realizing that I've got a lot of gaps that I have to fill to try and see what I think about it.
Sure. Yeah, that's fair.
What I've tried to do here is make kind of a bioart camp version of a mill, except I don't have any butterflies, and that was kind of the biggest challenge. There were supposed to be butterflies, but unfortunately nobody told the weather about that. And there are no butterflies because it's been such a cold year that they're just not out yet. So I'm trying to make a flight mill, but for caterpillars instead. And I thought it would be cool to turn it into a flight mill compass, so the caterpillars can show us the way to wherever we're going. So the idea is that if we connect the caterpillars to this flight mill, or this caterpillar mill, walking mill, then they should be able to move the compass needle.
This view is so
So what I'm doing here is I'm trying to make the little kind of caterpillar harness, and this caterpillar harness is made out of hair donated by Miss Louise Baxter. Special import from the Caribbean. And so I just need to make where are we here? Make it big enough. I think that'll work. And then what we need to do is put our caterpillar actually in the harness. So who do we think is, they're both moving. This guy's probably bigger and more powerful, right? Okay, so you go in. So these guys are going to grow into alpine Apollo butterflies. So they're a member of the swallowtail family. So they're a pretty big butterfly. They're white, and they've got kind of black and red spots on them. So they go from being black with yellow spots to being white with black and red spots. Oh, usually when you're doing insect work, you actually,
But in the book,
you're not worried about keeping the creature alive, unfortunately. And so you're usually interested in seeing how far it can fly before it dies. And so what you do is you glue the insect on using like super glue.
So we can measure pain here as well?
Yeah, I hope not to measure pain.
But you can.
You could, I guess, yeah. I just don't want to break the
hair.
Yeah. I'm worried that I might just end up breaking it is the problem. Yeah, I really don't want to kill him. Oh, maybe.
Fly's probably not helping.
No. Okay, I think that'll probably be good enough, yeah. So now we just need Jamie to come back with the tape. Whoop. It kind of looks morbid, actually. I don't- You can make your own Christmas ornaments this way.
Yeah.
So we'll have tape in a sec, I think.
Hopefully.
Just in time for the weather to get crappy again.
Yeah, probably.
I'm gonna keep them in my hand just to keep them warmed up.
So how come it's alive? Aren't they
How come it's
already butterflies now? By now?
No, that's the problem. If they were butterflies, I'd be working with the butterflies. That was my hope. But it's been a really cold spring and cold beginning of the summer, and so they're way behind schedule. So I wanted to work with butterflies, but I'm trying to adapt what I was going to do with the butterflies.
But aren't
to
you
caterpillars.
allergic to that? Because like whenever I got in touch with the caterpillar, I'll be all red and stuff,
No.
you know. Because it's a compass, you said.
It is a compass, yeah, north, south, east, west, and so it's all made out of found materials here at the field or the bioart camp. Almost everything we do, all of our research equipment, we make out of plastic and duct tape. Okay, sorry, dude. Okay, let's do this. Oh, he's hooked on. He's definitely hooked on. You see? Okay. All right, show us the way, young caterpillar. Go west.
So you could run bets on that to see how long it takes certain ones, right?
Yeah, exactly.
Come on. Do that
On
one.
a tighter leash.
This already is a tighter leash, but yeah, it probably needs to be even tighter.
So what's the idea of the leaf on the other end?
Counterbalance, because I put this bit of tape on and I thought I had it balanced, but I don't seem to have it quite. Yeah, this is a design flaw. but remember, this is still in the beta phase, right? So maybe Caterpillar Mill like 3.0 will solve that problem. It didn't work as well as I thought it would. It worked theoretically, but what I had here was a ticker. So every time this wheel went around, it would move past, right? And so you can see the number in there. So how many revolutions it's done.
Per minute.
Like that, yeah.